Let me ask you something uncomfortable. If you suddenly had $10,000 in your savings account today, would you feel rich or would you feel exposed? Most people imagine this moment as relief, as safety, as finally being able to breathe. You hit 5 digits. You cross a psychological line. You tell yourself, I made it past the hard part. But here's the shocking truth. For a lot of people, saving $10,000 doesn't feel empowering. It feels fragile. It feels like something you could lose at any moment. And that feeling changes how you behave in ways no one warns you about. This is not a video about why saving is bad. It's not about spending the money, and it's not about investing advice yet. This is about what actually happens in your head when you cross into 5 figures. Why $10,000 changes your psychology more than your reality. And why most people quietly sabotage this milestone without even realizing it. If you've already built your first emergency fund, if you've passed the baby step 1 phase, this video is for you. Because this is where things get dangerous in a very different way. Why $10,000 is a bigger deal than people realize. Let's put this into perspective. According to Federal Reserve data, fewer than 1 in 3 Americans have $10,000 or more in savings. That means if you're even close to this number, you're already ahead of the majority. That's not opinion, that's math. $10,000 represents something most people never experience, not wealth, but margin. Not freedom, but options. It's the first time money stops being purely reactive and starts becoming strategic. This is also the first time your money stops being invisible. When your savings were $500 or $1,000, you treated them like glass. Don't touch. Don't breathe near it. That money felt small, fragile, and clearly reserved for emergencies. 10,000 feels different. It feels real. It feels usable. It feels like something you could do something with. And that shift is exactly where people get into trouble. Here's what most people miss about this number. 50 years ago, $10,000 represented roughly 2 years of median household income. Today, it represents about 3 to 4 months. The purchasing power collapsed, but the psychological weight stayed exactly the same. Your brain still processes 5 digits as significant wealth because that's how it was coded culturally. Meanwhile, your actual financial position barely changed. You went from vulnerable to slightly less vulnerable. The gap between what this number feels like and what it actually protects you from creates a dangerous blind spot. People imagine crossing into 5 figures means they've entered a new financial class. They haven't. They've simply reached the minimum threshold where financial breathing room becomes theoretically possible. The problem is that threshold doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with instructions. It just sits there looking like safety while your life continues to cost exactly what it did before. This is why $10,000 functions more as a psychological landmark than a financial one. It activates a status shift in your mind without delivering the actual security that shift implies. And once that shift happens, behavior changes in ways data can't always predict. What people think $10,000 will do for them. Most people believe $10,000 will change their life. They imagine peace of mind, less stress, better sleep, a sense of arrival. They think this number will finally make money stop being a daily mental burden. And for about a week, it does. Then reality shows up. $10,000 doesn't replace income. It doesn't solve structural problems. It doesn't protect you from job loss for very long. In many cities, it doesn't even cover 3 months of basic living expenses. Once that realization sets in, something strange happens. Instead of feeling safe, people feel responsible. Now there's something to protect, something to manage, something that can be damaged by one wrong decision. And suddenly that relief turns into pressure. You don't feel rich. You feel like a caretaker. The shocking truth most people miss. Here it is. $10,000 doesn't change your financial reality nearly as much as it changes your behavior. This milestone doesn't remove risk, it makes risk visible. you start asking different questions. Can I afford this? Should I keep this much in cash? Am I being inefficient? What if inflation eats this? What if I'm wasting time not investing it? Your brain, which used to focus on survival, now focuses on optimization. And optimization is exhausting. The money didn't fix stress, it upgraded it. This is why so many people drain their savings shortly after reaching this number. Not because they're irresponsible, because they misinterpret what this milestone actually means. $10,000 is not a finish line. It's a transition point. Why people lose $10,000 quietly, not dramatically. No one wakes up and blows $10,000 in one bad decision. That's not how it disappears. It leaks. It leaks through small upgrades, a better phone, a vacation that feels earned, helping family because now you're the responsible one. Saying yes more often because you don't feel broke anymore. None of these decisions feel reckless. They feel reasonable. And that's the problem. According to behavioral finance research, once people perceive money as available, not reserved, spending behavior shifts automatically. The brain doesn't label it as emergency money anymore. It labels it as flexible money. This is not a discipline issue. It's cognitive wiring. $10,000 becomes the most expensive illusion people ever buy into. The illusion that they are safer than they actually are. Let me give you the pattern most people follow without realizing it. They upgrade their coffee routine because $3 doesn't register anymore. They say yes to dinner invitations they would have declined 6 months ago. They stop checking prices at the grocery store as carefully. They buy the name brand without thinking about it. Each decision costs $15, $30, maybe $50. Nothing that feels significant in isolation, but the aggregate effect is brutal. $100 here, $200 there. Within 60 days, $1,000 evaporates without a single moment of regret or awareness. Here's what makes this particularly insidious. The brain doesn't process these as spending events. It processes them as normal life returning to baseline. You're not being reckless, you're being reasonable. And reasonable spending, compounded daily, destroys 5-figure savings faster than any emergency ever could. The rationalization engine is relentless. You've been careful for so long, you've earned this. You're still being responsible compared to other people. The money is just sitting there anyway, and every single one of those thoughts is technically true, which makes them impossible to argue with in the moment. This is why savings don't disappear in crashes, they disappear in comfort. The money doesn't get stolen, it gets negotiated away, one justification at a time by someone who genuinely believes they're still being careful. The 5-digit psychology shift. Crossing into 5 digits does something subtle. You stop seeing money as protection and start seeing it as potential. Potential to improve life. Potential to fix discomfort. Potential to make things easier right now. That sounds positive, but here's the catch. Potential without structure turns into erosion. People start mentally spending money they haven't spent yet. They plan upgrades, they justify exceptions, they loosen rules they followed religiously at lower balances. The discipline that built the savings quietly dissolves under the belief that the hard part is over. It's not. The hard part just changed shape. What actually happens here is an identity transition most people don't recognize. You spent months, maybe years, operating as someone who survives financially. Every decision was defensive. Every dollar was scrutinized. You were in survival mode, and survival mode has clear rules. $10,000 promotes you. You're no longer surviving, you're managing, and managers make different decisions than survivors. Managers optimize, managers evaluate trade-offs, managers consider opportunity cost, all of which sounds sophisticated until you realize it's just permission to spend. This shift rewires social behavior in ways that feel invisible. You stop saying no to family requests as often because you don't want to seem cheap now that you have money. You upgrade gifts because anything less feels embarrassing given your new balance. You agree to trips or events you would have declined before because refusing feels inconsistent with your new financial position. None of this registers as lifestyle creep because it doesn't feel like creep. It feels like alignment. You're finally living in a way that matches what you've built, except what you've built is a buffer, not a lifestyle fund, and the distinction matters more than most people realize. The anxiety people feel at this stage isn't irrational, it's pattern recognition. Some part of your brain understands that the system that got you here is dissolving and nothing coherent is replacing it. You're making it up as you go, guided by feelings instead of rules, and feelings are expensive. This is the stage where people quietly lose control without ever admitting it, even to themselves. How $10,000 exposes weak systems. If your money system relies on motivation, $10,000 will expose it. If your savings depend on how careful you feel that month, this milestone will break it. If your rules aren't written down, if your boundaries aren't defined, if everything is negotiable, 5 digits will negotiate your progress away. The people who keep $10,000 aren't smarter, they're more boring. They decide in advance what this money is for and what it is not for. They remove emotion from access. They add friction on purpose. They treat this money like infrastructure, not lifestyle. The real role of $10,000 in a financial plan. When I crossed into 5 digits for the first time, I remember staring at the number more than I should admit. It felt unreal. It also felt temporary. I didn't celebrate. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't feel proud. I felt cautious, almost suspicious. That reaction taught me something important. The money wasn't the achievement. The system that built it was. The moment I relaxed that system, the balance started shrinking. Not dramatically, quietly, comfortably, one rational decision at a time. It took me longer than it should have to understand this. $10,000 doesn't protect you from bad systems. It exposes them. How to actually use $10,000 correctly. Here's the boring truth that works. First, you separate this money from daily life completely. Different bank. No debit card, no instant access. Second, you define rules in writing. Job loss, medical emergency, critical repair. That's it. Third, you pretend this money does not exist for lifestyle decisions because the moment it enters that conversation, it stops being protection. Fourth, you keep building margin on top of it. 10,000 is a floor, not a ceiling. This isn't about fear, it's about clarity. Money works best when it has a single job. What comes after $10,000? This milestone is not the end of anything, it's the beginning of a different responsibility. Once this buffer exists, you earn the right to think about investing, long-term planning, and growth. If saving $10,000 felt strange, heavy, or underwhelming, that's normal. It wasn't supposed to feel exciting. It was supposed to make the next stage possible. The shocking truth is simple. This number doesn't change your life. It protects your ability to change it. If you treat it like a trophy, you'll lose it. If you treat it like infrastructure, it will quietly support everything that comes next. If this video made sense to you, don't stop here. Click the next video on your screen. It goes even deeper. Do the boring stuff. It works.